Breathe slowly. You do not need to do anything yet. You do not need to explain yourself. You do not need to pretend. For now, you only need to listen. Let my voice enter quietly, smoothly. There was a good boy who thought he could look without falling. He would enter quietly, watch silently, read, return again and again. And every time he told himself the same thing. It is only curiosity. Curiosity about my voice. Curiosity about my presence. Curiosity about the way I command without ever needing to raise my tone. But curiosity does not return this often. Curiosity does not linger at night. Curiosity does not create that soft pressure in the chest when a goddess appears. Curiosity does not make a man lower his eyes without realizing it. No. What he felt was something deeper. Recognition. A hidden part of him already knew. Some men are not made to chase. They are made to respond. Men who move through the world looking composed, responsible, capable, in control, but underneath there is a quiet need. The need to stop deciding. The need to stop pretending. The need to find a feminine presence so calm, so firm, so superior that the body understands before the mind does. And what happened to him? At first, he only watched my words. Then he started feeling them. One phrase stayed in his mind, then another. Then my name, Goddess Selene. And every time that name returned inside him, something shifted. Not fear, not confusion, relief. Because at last he had found an energy that did not ask for permission. A woman who did not offer herself cheaply, did not beg, did not chase, did not over-explain. She simply existed, elevated, unavailable, watching, choosing, closer and who must remain outside, and that excited him more than he wanted to admit, because men like him always like to believe they still have control, but control can be lost very elegantly, not through noise, not through vulgarity, not through chaos, but through a soft voice saying, not like that, begin properly, prove it. And he felt something, a small current, a quiet pull, the impulse to obey, not because he expected an immediate reward, not because he was buying affection, not because he wanted to negotiate attention, but because obeying the right woman feels different. It feels clean. It feels inevitable. It feels like all the noise in his mind begins arranging itself around one single thought. I want to please her. Breathe slower. That's it. Imagine him, a man in front of his screen, the room quiet, the world outside, his normal life far away, and inside him, that need growing. He wanted to write, but not just anything. He wanted to be received. He wanted to be seen, not like the others. He wanted Goddess Selene to notice that he was not just another curious little viewer, that he could listen, that he could lower, that he could learn. But then came the first lesson. A goddess' attention is not taken, it is earned. The door does not open with hello. It does not open with empty questions. It does not open with cheap compliments. The door opens with action, with a decision, with tribute. And at first, that word made him feel something strange. Tribute, not as a simple payment, not as a cold transaction, but as a symbol, a proof, a way of saying without speaking too much, I understand my place. Because a man can promise many things. He can say he obeys. He can say he is at her feet. He can say he wants to be guided. But until he gives something They are only words. And slowly he began to understand. Tribute was not about buying the goddess. What a small thought. No, tribute was about correcting himself, crossing from viewer to submissive, from curious to devoted, from a man who watches to a man who acts, and that difference changed him because every time he thought about approaching properly, he felt that delicious mixture, a little nervousness, a little heat, a little shame, a little desire, that private sensation of doing something no one else had to know, only him, only his screen, only my voice, only that tiny moment where his finger could obey or keep pretending he was still in control. And there was the truth. The man who does not tribute yet still wants an escape. The man who tributes accepts the door. And when he accepts the door, something in him lowers, deeper, softer, more obedient, because he is no longer trying to take free energy. He is entering with respect, and respect, when offered to a goddess, becomes addictive. Breathe. Feel that word, respect, not as something cold, as something intimate, like an invisible hand resting at the back of your neck, like a gaze that does not need to touch you, like a command hanging in the air until your body understands. A good submissive does not ask too much. He observes, he listens, he feels, and when he knows what to do, he does it. That is how he becomes interesting. That is how he becomes different. That is how he stops being noise. And the man in this story wanted to stop being noise. He wanted his message to carry weight. Not because he wrote more, but because he acted better. He started small, a gesture, a tribute, a correct phrase, a simple act of obedience. And every time he did it, he felt that beautiful internal drop, as if his pride loosened, as if his mind stopped running, as if the most honest Yes, like that. He did not need the goddess to give him everything at once. That was part of the pleasure, the distance, the filter, the waiting, knowing that a response from her was not automatic, knowing that her attention had value, knowing that each correct step brought him a little closer, and each clumsy step left him outside. That excited him too, because an easily available goddess does not drain. A goddess who gives herself too quickly loses mystery. But a goddess who decides, who measures, who corrects, who observes in silence, that kind of goddess stays in the mind. And Goddess Selene did not stay in his mind like an ordinary fantasy. She stayed like a presence that did not say, "Come if you want." She said, "Enter correctly." And he began to learn that entering correctly was not only about sending something, it was an inner posture. Less demand, less noise, less explanation, more action, less "look at me," more "allow me to prove myself," less "what do I get?" more "teach me how to serve." And when the transformation begins, it does not stop easily, because the real submissive discovers something beautiful. His pleasure is not only in receiving, it is in giving. Giving attention, giving focus, giving obedience, giving that small financial gesture that confirms his desire is not cheap, because not everyone can enter, and that makes the entering feel better. Breathe deeper. That's it. Let my voice make space inside your mind. Maybe you have felt the difference too, between looking and approaching, between fantasizing and obeying, between waiting my attention and doing something worthy of it. Maybe there is a part of you that already knows it does not want to remain at the door. A part of you that does not want to be another lost message, another empty question, another casual hello, another man who says too much and proves too little. Maybe there is a part of you that wants to feel that small internal spark of doing it Opening your hand, choosing, sending, feeling how tribute does not empty you. It places you. It places you beneath a superior presence. It places you in silence. It places you exactly where your mind stops negotiating and being accepting. And there, right there, is where a goddess begins to work. Not when you talk too much, not when you try to impress, not when you explain your fantasies for hours, but when you cross the threshold, when you do something simple, clean, correct, and then you wait, because waiting is obedience too. Waiting educates desire. Distance polishes the submissive. Silence teaches him that not everything is received through insistence. Sometimes it is received through respect. Sometimes through patience. Sometimes through tribute. And then the man in this story began to understand it so deeply that every time he thought of Goddess Selene, one phrase formed in his mind. I want to enter correctly, not I want her to reply, not I want to try my luck, not I want her to convince me. No, I want to enter correctly. What a dangerous little phrase. So obedient, so sweet. Repeated inside. I want to enter correctly. Again. I want to enter correctly. Slower. I want to enter correctly for her. And with every repetition, resistance lowers. The fantasy becomes ordered. Desire becomes direction. And your attention learn one simple rule. You do not knock on a goddess door with empty hands. You arrive with intention. You arrive with tribute. You arrive knowing that the attention you desire has value. And if it has value, you honor it. Now, imagine that door, elegant, silent. On the other side, there is not a woman desperate to hear from you. There is a goddess, calm, distant, perfectly aware of her power. And you are standing before that door with all your excuses behind you. Work, fear, doubt, shame, curiosity. All those little voices trying to keep you the same. But a deeper part of you knows no excuse feels as good as obedience. No doubt feels as good as crossing. No resistance feels as good as surrendering. Just a little more. And that is why you are still listening. Because something in you wants to know what happens next. What happens when you stop looking? What happens when you stop pretending? What happens when you make the first correct gesture? And I will tell you, after that gesture, your mind becomes quieter. Not because everything ends, because something begins. The feeling of being seen differently, the desire to stay aligned, the need to do it right again. Because the first tribute is not the ending, it is the opening, the key, the signal, the first yes your body gives before your brain knows how to explain it. And then you discover something. You are not losing money. You are buying silence inside your mind. You are buying direction. You are buying the feeling of being placed where you wanted to be. Below, attentive, useful, ready. And maybe tomorrow you will look normal again. Maybe no one will know you listen to this. Maybe your outer light will remain untouched. But inside you, there will be a small mark, a phrase, a voice, a door. And when that impulse returns, do not waste it by talking too much. Do not stain it with excuses. Do not cheapen it with empty questions. Make it clean. Make it correct. Make it worthy. Tribute. Wait. Obey. And let Goddess Selene decide if you deserve more. Breathe. Slowly. Very slowly. Because this story does not end here. It only ends for those who are too weak to act. For the others. For the ones who feel the call and follow it. The door opens differently, more privately, more deeply, more dangerously, more mine. And if a part of you already knows that wants to cross, then you do not need another explanation. You only need to do what a good submissive does when he understands his place. Approach correctly. Open your hand and prove it, good boy. Send me an email and talk to you soon.